Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with our closing session. We invite Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Zunika Mohamed, Deputy Director General Policy Economic Planning Unit, and Dr. Yasuhiko Matsuda, World Bank Country Manager for Malaysia, to come up on the stage. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Zunika Mohamed, Timbalan Ketua Pengarah Dasar Unit Perancang Ekonomi. Yang berusaha Dr. Yasuhiko Matsuda, World Bank Country Manager for Malaysia. Pegawai-pegawai kanan kementerian, jabatan dan agensi. Yang berbahagia Datuk-Datuk Dr. Tuan-Tuan Puan-Puan, hadirin yang dihormati sekalian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Selamat datang ke upacara penutup Kick-Off Conference Kajian Separuh Penggal Rancangan Malaysia ke-12.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would now like to invite Dr. Yasuhiko Matsuda, World Bank Country Manager for Malaysia, to deliver his speech. Please welcome.
It's been such a day, so packed. So I believe I'm the number 24 now, but for the second time. And obviously I'm not going to even try to summarize anything. I don't think I can summarize what I said in the morning anymore. And my brain is kind of going like this. But it's been a very rich discussion today. The range of topics, and despite the clarity of the presentations, the fact that having spent a full day, we still couldn't go into depth on any one of them. I know that every speaker had to sacrifice and kind of control themselves. Okay, I have so much more to say, but in the interest of time, I'll just say this much and then leave it for some other occasions. And I think that signifies the enormity of the task in front of us. You're trying to fix the entire economy with all the interlinkages and complexity that comes with it. And there lies, I think, really is the challenge of National Development Plan. We commend that the government does this because the country needs clarity. And this is one of the primary instruments that you would have to indicate to the country and to the world, in what directions you're headed, at what pace. That really is needed. But at the same time, I just can't help but wonder, okay, how in the world are you going to implement all this? Where are you going to stay? And I think that probably is a perennial challenge, because once you start putting together a plan, you cannot ignore, all these important areas. You can't just say, okay, we just focus on these three things, even though the economy consists of gazillions of things, right? And so I don't have an easy answer to this, but I just wanted to acknowledge that this is, more than just a thick document, but, a heroic effort on the part of the government to try to address this range of issues that need to be addressed and, somehow fixed in some ways. Now, this is a midterm review, so the intention, I believe, is to make some corrections, the mid-course correction. So what are the basis for making those corrections? I think it's obvious. One is that things have changed since the time that you put together the plan, and therefore you have to make some adjustments. Things have changed a lot, probably more so in this case than any of the previous 5-year plans that you may have worked on. But then, big task there, I think, is to be able to distinguish between short-term changes. There's a lot of disturbances in the world economy and even in the political sense, geopolitics and so on. How much of that is enduring change as opposed to temporary thing that the government does have to address, right? You don't have a choice not to address those short-term issues and challenges. But from the World Bank's point of view, our urge is to keep the eye on the long-term challenges. And our sense is that the long-term challenges have not changed for Malaysia. And the circumstances and the sort of the contemporary context in which you have to devise and implement policies may have changed quite dramatically in the last few years. But the long-term challenges of skills development, innovation, better governance, and all the challenges that all the countries are facing of sustainability and addressing inequality. These are the topics that we were given the chances to speak about, so they came to my mind. But these have not changed, right? Another logic is that and I believe this is one of the things that you will do, is to assess what has worked and what hasn't worked, or how much of what you set out to do you have accomplished, and why not. And this is where, if you allow us, the World Bank also can have some technical contribution to make. We know how to do things like evaluations of programs. And it's my sense that you have a lot of plans, you do monitoring. I don't hear as much about evaluations as such, but it can be quite useful. But in the end, you make the adjustments and you tailor the plan to the change in circumstances of the world and the country, and you make adjustments according to what you have accomplished and what you have failed to do so, and then understanding why not. But at the end of the day, nothing matters unless you implement it. And there I think perhaps you could supplement plans with experiments. And brilliant ideas could come from theoretical literatures, even international examples that the entities like us might bring. But at the end of the day, the idea needs to be tested on the ground. And some can work, some may not work. Since we touched on education, and one of the statistics that I would like to really remind you of, all of, that really has shocked me, is this learning poverty of 43%. Right? Learning poverty means that children in the primary school, is it grade 5, are not able to read and then solve simple math questions at the level that should be expected of that grade. 43%, right? You will not have an innovation-led economy if that many children are at that level. Yeah? And we're not even talking about learning losses from COVID, right? Just statistics from the way things had been. So you do need to fix this. Now, there are encouraging examples from the world. So let me cite one. Brazil, which is not known for high quality education, to be frank, a humongous country, 5,500 and some number of municipalities. The World Bank did a measurement of what we call human capital index in all of these municipalities in Brazil. So the best ones are as good as Belgium. The worst ones are about the level of Burkina Faso. The average is, of course, Brazil. So we have these 3 Bs, yeah? And one of the poorer states, which actually has been reforming consistently for the last 20, 30 years, and experimented by giving each of its municipalities, there's, I forgot, a few hundred municipalities in the state, fiscal incentive for improving learning outcomes. So if they improved outcomes, the municipality, the mayor, will get additional fiscal transfer from the state government. State also gave each of the municipalities technical support so that they don't have not just the incentive, but also assistance to make it happen. And one municipality in particular really improved learning outcomes. But it didn't work in every other municipality, not all the other municipalities managed to improve in a similar way. More interestingly, the same approach did not work as well in health in the same municipality, right? So you might think, okay, great plan, great idea, let's go and implement it. It worked here, let's implement it there. Actually, it doesn't always work the same way. That's why I think experimenting and then allowing local actors to introduce locally appropriate adjustments may actually be the way to go, especially for something like education, because at the end of the day, this is about a whole bunch of people changing their behaviors from students to parents to teachers and then school leaders and others. So you cannot prescribe it, right? I think there are many other things where people's behavior need to change for progress to be registered. Maybe, something to do with public transportation. I'm sure there are some behavioral angles to it that may, be may benefit from some sort of experiment as well. It would be very interesting from my personal point of view, if the government were to consider introducing some experiment, trial and error. It's okay if you fail, because then you know that this doesn't work in this particular context, you move on from it. Whether you can bring something like that into a national plan, I think, I'm not sure you're going to be able to, procedurally and otherwise, but I would definitely like to encourage you to think of that, because otherwise, as several speakers said, and I think including the minister this morning, you may keep doing the same things, you may keep talking about the same thing, you may keep aiming at the same kinds of goals, plan after plan after plan. I think that would be a frustrating outcome that I know that we all know that we want to avoid. So, I think today was very rich for me, a lot of food for thought. It was so rich that I forgot that Japan lost last night. I'm tired now, I'm kind of beginning to remember it. But thank you very much for very enriching, informative day. I had the opportunity really to listen to topics that frankly I probably wouldn't have usually chosen to sit down and listen to. Every one of them was very, very interesting and informative. So congratulations to the Datuk Zunika and the colleagues of EPU and all the other colleagues from the government for putting together and participating in this very good and important conference. But the work starts now, right? I understand this is the kickoff of a process, and I hope that you would count on us, the World Bank, for whatever small assistance that we can continue to provide, and so that your mid-year review and the outcome of it can be as meaningful and as practical in the real sense as possible. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Yang Berusaha Dr. Yasuhiko Matsuda, World Bank Country Manager for Malaysia, atas cadangan dasar itu tadi. Hadirin sekalian, majlis seterusnya mempersilakan Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Zunika Mohamed, Timbalan Ketua Pengarah Dasar Unit Perancang Ekonomi, untuk menyampaikan rumusan dan ucapan penutup. Dipersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera yang berbahagia Datuk-Datuk, Doktor, tuan-tuan, puan-puan yang saya hormati sekalian. Terlebih dahulu saya nak sampaikan salam daripada Datuk Ketua Pengarah EPU kerana tak dapat bersama dengan kita pada petang ini. Beliau bersama dengan YB Minister pada masa ini untuk menyelesaikan satu kertas kerja untuk Kabinet pada pagi esok. Alhamdulillah, kita sudah sampai ke penghujung majlis pada hari ini, dan pertamanya saya ingin memanjatkan segala puji dan penuh kesyukuran kehadrat Allah kerana dengan iradat dan inayahnya jugalah kita dapat bersama sehingga majlis penutup kick-off conference kajian separuh penggal rancangan Malaysia Kedua Belas bagi tahun 2022 ini. Alhamdulillah, we have reached the end of today's session, and I would like to state my praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala for the opportunity for us together today up until now for closing ceremony of the 12th Malaysia Plan Midterm Review Kick-Off Conference, and a regard from our KP because he could not be with us today as he is with our minister right now in the office. Terlebih dahulu saya ingin mengucapkan syabas dan tahniah kepada Yang Berbahagia Datuk-Datuk, tuan-tuan, puan-puan yang telah berada bersama dengan kami sehingga ke penghujung dan terlibat secara aktif dan seterusnya menjayakan kick-off conference KSP pada hari ini. Saya yakin dan percaya dengan input dan maklum balas serta perkongsian daripada panelis daripada pelbagai sektor dan pelbagai latar belakang pada hari ini akan membantu kerajaan terutama unit perancang ekonomi dalam menyediakan dokumen KSP Rancangan Malaysia Ke-12 ini. I believe that all of your inputs and feedbacks, as well as the knowledge sharing from various sectors and background, will assist the government, especially the EPU, in preparing for the 12th Malaysia Plan midterm review. Pada hadirin sekalian, seperti sedia maklum, YB Menteri dalam ucapan perasmian beliau pagi tadi telah pun menegaskan tentang pentingnya ajakan pemikiran dalam melaksanakan perancangan, yakni menaik taraf kaedah perancangan itu sendiri. Beliau mengutarakan senario planning yang telah beliau sebutkan supaya kita laksanakan bagi membolehkan kerajaan menghadapi sebarang cabaran yang mungkin timbul kelak. Oleh itu, penelitian semula inisiatif ini perlu disertai dengan pemikiran yang terbuka atau with an open mind. Saya juga tertarik serta bersetuju dengan saranan beliau agar kita tidak terikat kepada perancangan yang telah diamalkan sejak sekian lama. Dr. Yasu just now mentioned about that we should also change how we do things because we get frustrated when we repeat the same thing and we could not get the output or outcome that we want. Dan penipuan kepada infrastruktur pembuatan dan komoditi yang kita telah tumpukan sebelum ini, kemungkinannya perlu kita lebih tumpukan kepada inovasi, kreativiti dan agility. Saya amat berharap sesi pada hari ini telah berjaya menggarap sedikit sebanyak penelitian YB Menteri tersebut melalui pembentangan 4 tema utama yang merangkumi menjana semula ekonomi, memperkukuh kesejahteraan dan keterangkuman, melonjakkan kemampanan dan mengukuhkan pemakin dasar bagi pertumbuhan dan pembangunan yang telah kita harungi sepanjang hari ini. I hope that the session today had managed to build on some of YB Minister's observation through presentation in the 4 main themes, namely resetting the economy, strengthening security, well-being and inclusivity, advancing sustainability and policy enabler conducted throughout the day. Umpama telaan kepada ucapan pembukaan sesi pertama membincangkan pelbagai krisis yang sedang kita hadapi yang telah menjejaskan sasaran ekonomi makro yang telah ditetapkan di bawah Rancangan Malaysia Kedua serta usaha untuk mencapai matlamat pembangunan mampan. Oleh itu amat penting untuk kita mengunjurkan semula petunjuk prestasi agar ianya selari dengan situasi semasa. Seperti yang YB Menteri sarankan tadi, adalah penting untuk kita mengenal pasti baseline supaya sebarang perubahan dapat dijajarkan semula. Kebolehan kita untuk bertindak dengan pantas atau agile itu akan memastikan bahawa momentum pertumbuhan yang semakin perlahan yang kita hadapi pada masa ini akan dapat dipulihkan. Saya juga tertarik dengan ulasan Dr. Yasuhiko yang menyatakan bahawa tiada gunanya negara berjaya mencapai status negara berpendapatan tinggi ataupun high income nation jika ketidaksamaan masih melanda seluruh pelosok negara. Oleh itu saya gembira dengan persidangan pada hari ini kita telah mengenal pasti beberapa tindakan yang perlu dilaksanakan untuk mengatasi masalah ketidaksamaan bagi membolehkan Malaysia yang makmur dan berdaya tahan, di mana pembaharuan bagi perancangan pembangunan berasaskan hasil akan dapat memastikan ekonomi kitaran, keseimbangan antara wilayah serta bandar pintar dapat dilaksanakan sewajarnya. Hal ini juga selaras dengan kandungan Rancangan Malaysia Ke-12 dan Rancangan Fizikal Negara Ke-4 yang telah kita dengar dibentangkan tadi oleh DG daripada Plan Malaysia. Langkah-langkah berladaskan SDG akan memastikan keterangkuman dan atribut ke arah tadbir urus yang baik. Selain itu, usaha untuk memastikan keperluan asas masyarakat, terutama yang berkaitan dengan sektor perkhidmatan air dan pembentungan juga telah diberi perhatian yang sewajarnya. Dr. Yasuhiko's observation that achieving a high income nation status but with high inequality across the country is not success is very apt instead. Therefore, I am happy that through this conference we have identified a few actions that need to be implemented in order to rectify the problem of inequality for a prosperous, resilient and livable Malaysia, where reform for outcome-based development planning will ensure circular economy, balance between regions and implementation of smart cities accordingly. This is also in line with the 12th Malaysia Plan and proposed 4th National Physical Plan. Efforts based on SDG will ensure inclusivity and attributes towards good governance. Besides, effort to ensure basic needs of the society, especially those related to water and sewerage services sector, had also been given due consideration. Berbagai datuk-datuk, tuan-tuan, puan-puan sekalian, saya juga amat teruja dengan aspirasi YB Menteri pagi tadi agar negara beralih ke era digitalisasi. Selaras dengan hasrat tersebut, sesi perbincangan mengenai peralihan kepada penggunaan teknologi digital bagi meningkatkan produktiviti adalah sangat bertepatan. Dalam proses Malaysia memulakan langkah ke arah pendigitalan yang berskala besar dan pembangunan mampan, lebih banyak usaha perlu ditumpukan bagi memastikan kita mengikuti trend semasa untuk kekal berdaya saing pada masa hadapan. Ini hanya akan berlaku sekiranya apa yang dijelaskan oleh salah seorang ahli panel yang kita dengar melalui ketersambungan infrastruktur asas yang berkualiti dan tahap celik digital yang tinggi. Oleh yang demikian, kerajaan perlu mereka bentuk sistem pendigitalan sektor awam yang lebih baik. Literasi dan kompetensi digital termasuk mengenai privasi dan keselamatan juga perlu dipertingkat dengan sewajarnya. Selain itu, kerajaan juga perlu mengalihkan tumpuan daripada sektor konvensional kepada sektor tinggi digital seperti teknologi keuangan Islam ataupun fintech yang kita dengar pada sesi pagi tadi. I am also excited about YB Minister's aspiration in the talk this morning that the country should be moving rapidly to digitalization era. In line with that, our discussion on the shift to promote the use of digital technologies to heighten the productivity is very apt indeed. As Malaysia embarks on its journey towards greater digitalization and sustainable development, more efforts need to be done to ensure we keep abreast with current trends to stay competitive in the future. This is only viable, as rightly pointed out by one of the panelists, via a foundation of high quality connectivity infrastructure and high levels of digital literacy. For this, the government now has to design better public sector digital systems. The digital literacy and privacy and security has to be heightened accordingly with proper regulations in place. Besides that, government should move away from focusing the conventional sectors to highly digitalized sectors such as the Islamic fintech. Mengenai kos dan taraf hidup, salah seorang daripada ahli panel yang kita dengar telah mengetengahkan penggunaan belanjawanku yang berfungsi sebagai panduan perbelanjaan yang menyediakan anggaran perbelanjaan bulanan minimum bagi pelbagai jenis barangan dan perkhidmatan untuk rakyat Malaysia. Ia bertujuan untuk mencapai taraf hidup yang munasabah dan boleh diterima. Belanjawanku boleh membantu mengenal pasti tingkah laku perbelanjaan, menganalisis dan membangunkan belanjawan peribadi yang sesuai. Belanjawanku membolehkan rakyat membuat keputusan yang tepat dalam berbelanja. When it comes to the cost and standard of living, one of the panelists highlighted the use of belanjawanku, which serves as an expenditure guide, providing estimated minimum monthly expenses on various types of goods and services for Malaysians to attain a reasonable and acceptable standard of living. Belanjawanku could facilitate in investigating the spending behavior, analyze and develop a suitable personal budget aiming at an informed decision made by the people while spending. Kini kita sedang berhadapan dengan pelbagai cabaran, termasuklah masyarakat menua. Oleh itu, antara cadangan penyelesaian seperti pencen sosial dan insurans sosial perlu diberi perhatian sewajarnya. Selain itu, pembangunan modal insan mesti ditambah baik dan sistem pencukaian yang lebih progresif dengan mengambil kira faedah yang telah dikenal pasti harus dilaksanakan seperti yang telah ditetapkan. We are now faced with challenges including issues of aging nation. Therefore, among recommendations in handling this phenomena, namely social pensions and social insurance, should be given high priority. Besides that, human capital development must be heightened. A more progressive taxation system taking into consideration defined benefits should be put in place as highlighted. Berbagai datuk, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, saya amat berharap kesemua isu dan input yang telah diketengahkan dalam sesi ini akan dapat diperhalusi dalam sesi libat urus yang akan diadakan nanti. Semasa penyediaan Rancangan Malaysia ke-12, libat urus yang menyeluruh telah diadakan melalui penglibatan kementerian, agensi, kerajaan negeri, ahli-ahli parlimen, sektor swasta, akademia, pertubuhan masyarakat sivil, organisasi antarabangsa dan orang awam. During the preparation of 12 Malaysia Plan, a thorough engagement involving ministries, agencies, state governments, members of parliament, private sector, academia, civil society organisations, international organisation and the public. Pendekatan ini akan diteruskan untuk KSP di mana struktur YBhg, TWG dan focus group yang telah dipersetujui semasa Rancangan Malaysia ke-12 akan dikekalkan bagi memastikan kesinambungan perbincangan serta membolehkan analisis jurang yang lebih tepat dibuat. This approach will be continued for the midterm review in which YBhg, TWG and focus group that have been agreed upon in the 12 Malaysia Plan will be maintained to ensure that there is continuity in discussion and also to enable more consistent and in-depth gap analysis. Melalui sesi libat urus ini, kita berharap input, maklumat, ulasan dan maklum balas daripada aspek yang berbeza yang relevan mengenai pelaksanaan strategi, inisiatif, program dan projek pembangunan dalam Rancangan Malaysia ke-12 akan dapat didokumentasikan dan dibentangkan kepada kerajaan. Oleh yang demikian, saya menyeru semua hadirin terlibat secara aktif dalam sesi libat urus yang akan diadakan bagi membolehkan permasalahan dapat dirungkaikan bersama bagi mewujudkan Malaysia makmur, inklusif, mampan. Saya akhiri dengan kata YB Menteri pagi tadi. Not only the plan need to be agile, but the planners too. Therefore, I urge all to be actively involved in the upcoming engagement sessions in order to scrutinize all the problems for a prosperous, inclusive and sustainable Malaysia. I would like to end my speech with saying of YB Minister this morning, not only the plan need to be agile, but the planners too. Oleh itu, komitmen yang diberikan semua pihak berkepentingan memainkan peranan penting dalam memastikan kejayaan strategi dan inisiatif yang ditetapkan di dalam Rancangan Malaysia ke-12. Sebagai akhir bicara, pepatah ada menyatakan bahawa bulat air kerana pembentung, bulat manusia kerana muafakat. Yang memberi maksud tiada yang mustahil jika kita dapat bekerja bersama-sama. Kita yakin dan percaya bahawa kerjasama yang diberikan oleh semua pihak akan dapat merealisasikan matlamat dan sasaran Rancangan Malaysia ke-12. Harapan kami agar semua pihak dapat menilai semula prestasi semasa dan melaksanakan penambahbaikan bagi KSP Rancangan Malaysia ke-12 ini dalam usaha untuk memastikan semua program yang dilaksanakan dapat memberi manfaat kepada rakyat dan seterusnya merangsang pertumbuhan ekonomi negara. Finally, I would like to share an old Malay proverb, bulat air kerana pembentung, bulat manusia kerana muafakat, which means that nothing is impossible if we work together. We are convinced that the cooperation from all parties will help realize 12 Malaysia Plan objectives and goals. We hope that all of you will review your current performances and implement necessary improvements for the midterm review to ensure that all the programs will benefit the rakyat and serve to spur our economic growth. Saya ingin mengambil kesempatan ini sekali lagi merakamkan setinggi-tinggi tahniah dan penghargaan kepada semua pihak yang terlibat dalam menjayakan kick-off conference pada hari ini, khususnya daripada Bank Dunia. Once again, I would like to reiterate my sincere appreciation and gratitude to all parties involved, especially the World Bank, in ensuring this kick-off conference is successful. Dengan penuh rasa syukur, saya dengan sukacitanya menutup kick-off conference KSP Rancangan Malaysia ke-12. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.